Israeli strikes in Lebanon kill 16. Militant rockets kill pointers. Israeli as cross-border violence soars. Central American and Mexican families mourn the workers lost in the Baltimore bridge collapse. Lawmakers in Thailand overwhelmingly approve a bill to legalize same-sex marriage. Today is Thursday, March 28, 2024, and this is the Dunkley Report International News. Lebanon's state news agency says Israeli airstrikes killed 9 people in southern Lebanon, including paramedics who were preparing to respond to the first strike. That raises the number of people killed by Israeli strikes Wednesday to 16, making this the deadliest day in more than 5 months of fighting along the Israel-Lebanon border. An earlier attack hit a different paramedic center linked to a Sunni Muslim group, killing 7 of the group's members. And in Israel, 1 man was killed after Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group fired a barrage of rockets. An Israeli general says the military struck a large number of operatives and was also conducting very significant strikes against Hezbollah. The workers lost in the Baltimore bridge collapse all hailed from Mexico or Central America before they settled in the Maryland area. Police managed to close bridge traffic seconds before a cargo ship slammed into one of the Francis Scott Key Bridge's supports early Tuesday. The span fell into the frigid Patapsco River. There wasn't time for a maintenance crew filling potholes on the span to get to safety. At least 8 people fell into the water, and 2 were rescued. 2 bodies were recovered Wednesday. 4 remained missing and were presumed dead. They hailed from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Lawmakers in Thailand's lower house of parliament have overwhelmingly approved a marriage equality bill that would make the country the first in Southeast Asia to legalize equal rights for marriage partners of any gender. A total of 400 of the 415 members of the House of Representatives in attendance voted for the bill Wednesday. It would open up access to full legal, financial, and medical rights for LGBTQ+ couples. The bill now goes to the Senate, which rarely rejects any legislation that passes the lower house, and then to the King for royal endorsement. This would make Thailand the first place in Southeast Asia to pass such a law, and the third in Asia, after Taiwan and Nepal. Parents of more than 130 Nigerian schoolchildren who were rescued after more than 2 weeks in captivity say they saw them, and that they couldn't hold back tears of joy during the reunion. The parents say the meeting took place on Wednesday at a government facility where the children are staying and receiving medical support. Their abduction from their school in the remote town of Kuriga was one of several mass school abductions that have shaken the West African nation in recent years. Authorities said no ransom was paid for the freedom of the children, but have provided no details of the rescue, or said whether any suspected kidnappers were arrested. An exhibit in the French capital before this summer's Paris Olympics shows how the Games have been a mirror of society since the beginning of the 20th century. Historian Paul Dietschi is one of the curators. He told the Associated Press on Wednesday that this exhibit tries to show this relationship between ideology, power, and the Olympic Games. The exhibit at the Shoah Memorial in central Paris features photos, documents, and Olympic items and film archives from the past century. It shows how the Olympic Games have widely been used by totalitarian regimes as a propaganda tool, but also by athletes as a driver of change in the fight against racial inequalities. It opens to the public Friday and lasts through mid-November. Ukrainian officials say Russia has struck the northeastern city of Kharkiv with aerial bombs for the first time since 2022, killing at least one civilian and wounding 16 others. The airstrikes caused widespread damage, hitting several residential buildings and damaging the city's Institute for Emergency Surgery. Russia has escalated its attacks on Ukraine in recent days, launching several missile barrages on the capital Kiev and hitting energy infrastructure across the country in apparent retaliation for recent Ukrainian aerial attacks on the Russian border region of Belgorod. Such sporadic attacks, however, have been common throughout the war. Russian authorities say that the death toll in last week's Moscow concert hall attack has risen to 143. Health officials said Wednesday that about 80 people injured in last week's attack remain hospitalized and 205 have sought medical assistance. The Friday night massacre in Crocus City Hall was the deadliest extremist attack on Russian soil in years. An affiliate of the Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the violence, but Russian officials have insisted, without providing evidence, that Ukraine and the West had a role. Ukraine vehemently denies anything to do with the attack. Members of a transitional presidential council who will be responsible for selecting a new prime minister for Haiti have issued their first official statement. They are pledging to restore public and democratic order and alleviate the suffering of the Haitian people. The statement issued Wednesday was signed by 8 members of what is supposed to be a 9-member council. The members noted that as soon as the council is officially installed, they would help put Haiti back on the path of democratic legitimacy, stability, and dignity. The statement was issued nearly a month after gangs began targeting key government infrastructures across the capital of Port-au-Prince. Religious and neoconservative groups have been ramping up pressure to ban abortions in staunchly Catholic Croatia. They have held vigils outside abortion clinics and marches drawing thousands of people. More recently, groups of men were kneeling and praying at public squares in Croatian cities. The fierce debate has fueled divisions in the European Union nation of some 3.9 million people. Abortion remains legal, but access to the procedure is often denied, sending many women to neighboring Slovenia to end a pregnancy. This is in stark contrast with Croatia's recent past, when it was part of the former Yugoslavia, a communist-run country that protected abortion rights in its constitution 50 years ago. Protesters in Slovakia have formed a human chain around the country's public television and radio building in anger over a takeover plan by the government whose populist, pro-Russia prime minister recently labeled several private media outlets his enemies. The plan was drafted by the culture minister, who represents an ultra-nationalist member, party of the coalition government, and has worked for an internet TV outlet known for spreading disinformation. Slovak journalists have called the plane an attack on all free media. Critics worry Slovakia is abandoning its pro-Western course and following the direction of Hungary under Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Thank you for joining us here at the Dunkley Report, International News. Don't forget to like and subscribe for the latest breaking stories.